Well, I've had a pretty alright week. But do you think these co-loaders and syndicates are killing it for the rest of us?
Hi everybody, it's Dave here from Anvil Logistics. So, while certainly not the most popular, widely subscribed to channel for courier drivers, it's certainly my favourite. Anyway, it's Tuesday today, it's the 4th of June, and we're on the road to Boston at the moment. But yesterday, I'll take you through yesterday, Monday, it went all a bit pear-shaped, really. Not a complete disaster or anything like that, but what the plan was that on Monday morning, I was supposed to go into the offices for my customer at Manchester Airport, and I was going to do my training for known cargo, so that's delivering known cargo, which was going to benefit me because I'd get the qualification for it, and it would benefit my customer because it means I can do that particular type of job for them. Basically, it's the ability to transport cargo, air freight, basically, that has been declared customs safe and can go directly, in without having to go through customs because it's already been pre-signed off by someone who's approved by customs. And then you've got to make sure there's certain things you've got to do. Your vehicle's got to completely remain locked at all times. It can only be unlocked when you're being unloaded by appropriate people. But you have to have a training, which is basically a morning online thing. And you have to go through checks, criminal checks, residency checks, confirmation, what you've been doing for the last 5 years, things like that. Anyway, it was supposed to be all in place, and turns out that there was a couple of checks hadn't come through for me. The main one being last 5 years of continuous employment or self-employment, because I've only been self-employed for 2 years, so previously I was employed, and they hadn't had the confirmation from my previous employer back, so it couldn't go ahead. So anyway, it turns out that my previous employer hadn't actually received a request for information, and I had to contact them myself, and they've said, well, as soon as we get it, we'll do it for you. So subsequently, what that meant was that I wasted some time on Monday morning. And then I was given some jobs to do by them anyway, which brought me some money in. And I finished reasonably early. Not with the greatest amount of money for the day, but, these things happen. And, everything's been postponed about doing the known cargo certification. But I'm sure that'll happen soon. In the meantime, today I'm actually doing a job for, a new customer, basically. It's somebody who I have been in contact with for at least the last 18 months and is actually a subscriber to the channel and does watch. Hello, Frank. And he's asked me to cover a job for him. So I'm doing that today. So I'm on the way to Boston to do a collection. It's in quite a remote area. And I'm taking that up to Congleton. And he's agreed a very agreeable price for me to do it. One of which I hope we're both happy with. And then Lady Luck has shined on me because my regular customers have got me a collection to do from Congleton when I get there. So that's all right. Because what I do is that when I don't work for them, I always keep them informed about what I'm doing. I don't give them any names or anything, but I'll say I've got a job and I'm going from here and I'm going to there and I expect to be there around that time. And then that way, if they have anything that needs covering, they'll then let me know. And they're quite happy with that arrangement, because obviously there's sometimes when they're not completely busy themselves and can't give me any work. But, you know, if something comes up that suits them and me, then they'll pass it on to me. So I've got that collection in Congleton to do, and then another collection somewhere else, and I can't remember for the life of where it is, but it is on my email. So I'll be checking that once I get down there. And then I'll be taking both of those collections to 2 different air freight carriers at Manchester Airport. But basically the 3 jobs will all add up to a very satisfactory day's work and take. So we'll be happy about that. So it's not a bad start to the week, apart from the Monday. These things happen, but not so much of a panic, because it's a 5-day week. So you always expect one day to be slacker than the other. Last week I did a great amount of money, just over 4 days. So when you've got a 5-day week, you've got a little bit of leeway, haven't you, to play with. So we're happy. Van's running okay. Betty Blue is doing fine. She's booked in for another service, which will be a Saturday. It's a good thing about V-Dub. They do have Saturday servicings. Not at every site, but the one in Trafford Park does. So what I tend to do is drop it off with them, then have a wander down to the Trafford Centre and have a wander about, make sure I put my tracksuit on and baseball cap back to front, and just generally fit in with all the teenagers hanging about in the Trafford Centre. Probably get something to eat there, and then go back up and pick up the van. There is one closer to me in Oldham, but they don't do Saturdays, because at the moment they said they haven't got enough technicians, although they are planning and hoping to do Saturdays when the time comes. But the van's running great. She's doing okay. Thanks for your responses about what type of van that you use and why. And I hope that people glean some information from it and it comes in useful. And what I'll do is I will keep you informed how the rest of the week goes. And I hope everybody else has a great week too. Well, it's Thursday now. It's Thursday the 6th of June. And I'm on the M5 at the moment, heading south in a 50-mile-an-hour stretch because the road works. So I better fill you in what we got up to earlier on in the week, because obviously this is supposed to be a week in the life. So let's catch up. So I think I left you Monday with the knowledge that I was going to do a job that a friend of mine had given me. And we did that job. But it didn't go quite as planned. Not the fault of the person who gave it to me. It's just circumstances. But essentially, I got to the collection point and the items that I was collecting, basically they were water containers, 12 of them, quite large, about the size of, say, a wheelie bin, and they're used for events. In fact, these particular ones are going to be used for an event in Manchester this weekend, the Park Life event. It's a bit like poor man's Glastonbury. Anyway, I went to collect them, got there early, so earlier than I needed to be, that's my fault, no one else's, but I always like to get early. And I was told that the items were not all... There's a bit of confusion about collection reference numbers, but once that had been established, there were only 8 actually available to take. So obviously I rang my customer, who rings his customer, and said they'd ordered 12, and he wants 12, and they hadn't actually made them all yet. And the upshot was, it was sort of like 2:30, 3 before I could leave the site, which meant that the jobs I'd had arranged with my own customer to do in the afternoon, I couldn't do them. I had to let them know in good time so they could get them covered. Now, in fairness to Frank, who gave me this job, hi Frank, he confirmed with the customer that I'm going to get waiting time. So that makes up for the fact that I couldn't do those other jobs. It's just a little bit boring, isn't it? They had a canteen that I could use if I wanted a brew, and toilet facilities and everything like that. So I basically sat doing some paperwork, watched a bit of stuff on YouTube, mainly myself and the Ambulers, and some of the other guys too, and passed the time that way until the items were ready for collection, and we got them loaded up, and I got them back up to Congleton and delivered for about 5:30, and the customer was pleased that I waited for everything to be ready, and he did actually contact Frank to say he was pleased with the job and it was a good service. So that's good. It reflects well on Frank, and I'm glad that what I did reflected well on him, and I thank Frank for the job. These things happen in this game, you know. Sometimes circumstances mean that you're going to get waiting, and if you're getting paid for it, it's not really any harm, is it? It's a little bit inconvenience of rearranging those jobs, but my customer understood, and I did give them plenty of time to arrange other drivers to cover them. So all's well that ends well, and it was a fair paid day, and we were very happy with it. Yesterday did my own customer work, another one of those well paid ones. So I picked up from North Yorkshire, and I ended up in Telford, and managed to get a little cheeky CX job partway back, which basically more than covered the fuel. And then my own customer gave me a job for the other part of the journey back, and I ended up in Manchester Airport with a great, day's takings yesterday. So we are very pleased. And that brings us to today. And again, got lucky, got another one of these good jobs. So collected from the Blackburn area, and I'm heading down to Yeovil again, like I did last week and the week before. So got lucky, and I see if I can get as lucky as I did last week, and where I actually got a backload, didn't I? So we'll hopefully get one. If we don't, well, fair enough. Get well enough paid for this anyway. So the week's turning out all right. So after what would be a disappointing Monday, but that's mainly because of that cancelled course, we're doing okay. The week will be definitely an on-target week. It's how much over target we end up now, and when you're over target, you're happy, and that's the main thing. It seems, and I'm going to keep with fingers crossed, and some of the chat, things appear to be picking up a bit out there. Might be speaking too soon, but a lot of people on the chat groups are not moaning as much. Moaning is the wrong word, but are not concerned as much about the lack of work. So, and there's not as much chat on the group, which would indicate to me that people are busy working, too busy to be chatting, so to speak, which is great. A few other people have mentioned it. So are things picking up a bit, or is it just the fact that everyone's fed up of moaning and not putting anything on there? But I hope so. I hope so for everyone's sake. I've got lucky. I've kept my head above the water, and I've kept going, and I'm hoping that things are going the right way for everybody else too. I mean, this channel is for the benefit of people. I do my week in the life so people can see how I work. Not everyone obviously agrees with the way I work, and some people will do it a lot better than me. I work to suit me. There is other work I could do that I won't do, multi-drop work and things like that, simply because I don't enjoy it. And if you don't enjoy it, what's the point? I'll do it every now and again to help out, but I really do not enjoy doing that work. And whereas the work that I do, I go to bed and I'm almost looking forward to going to work the next day. I like driving. I don't mind driving distance. I have no problem with working late if needs be. I'm very flexible on the times that I work. On the whole, in this industry, you got to be flexible. It's not a 9-to-5 job, is it? Let's face it. If you know that your earnings are going to be limited if you work 9 to 5 and you accept that, that's fine. If you want to earn anything approaching a decent income, you've got to be flexible in this job because of the very nature of what we do. Same day delivery, which is my preference, means that it's going the same day, and if you're getting there late and it's coming out, it's an urgent job coming out at random times. It's the highest paid form of work, or it should be. This is what the customers pay the most for it. So you've got to expect to go a bit above and beyond when it comes to time, haven't you? So I don't know what tomorrow will bring. Obviously, I'll finish off the video on Friday. But everything at the moment, fingers crossed, appears to be going okay. Betty Blue is still doing me proud. I'm still very pleased with her. Apart from last night, for some bizarre reason, the alarm went off on her twice. Now, I live in a quiet area, and I live in a cul-de-sac. But I do park next to a tree, mainly, because obviously the size of the vehicle is more out of the way. And the alarm went off once when I was outside. There's no one around the vehicle. Went and checked everything, went back in. Then I went upstairs to go to bed, and then the alarm was going off again. So in the end, I moved the van slightly, and obviously started the engine, moved it, maybe reset it, but the alarm didn't go off again. But I don't see any reason why the alarm would go off, but who knows? Was it the tree brushing against it? If it is, it's bloody sensitive, the alarm then. Anyway, boring myself now, so I'll finish this and I'll polish it off tomorrow and let you know how today finished up. Hello, this is 7th today, 7th of June. It is Friday and it is about 5 to 10 in the morning, and we are driving west on the M62. We're in West Yorkshire at the moment. We've just gone past the little house on the prairie, that farmhouse where the motorway divides it. Interesting fact. And we did all right yesterday, and we've done all right so far this week. So yesterday, so we go down Yeovil, and I got another job. I got an ADR job, part way back, not very far. But what that did was, when I added it all up last night, it meant that I had made the weekly target in 3.5 days, which is excellent and takes the pressure off. So today is gravy. This is gravy on your dinner. Everything that I earn today is just bonus and gets put away for the rainy days, etc. So what we're doing now, or what we've already started doing today, is this morning I've been to a private house and picked up 2 laptops sealed in a box. And then I've gone up to Lancashire in the Blackburnish area, picked up some aircraft parts and things like that, and now I'm going to North Yorkshire to deliver everything to one place. I have to be vague about where I'm going. Can't mention any names, but it is decent paid work, and it will be done and dusted by just after 11. So then I can either look for something coming back down to the People's Republic of Mancunia, or my own customers may ask me to pick up something whilst I'm there, possibly for delivery on Monday, or possibly for a late delivery today. Either way, there's no sweat. I'd sooner have the early finish, to be honest, and we'll have had a decent week, which gives me time now for a little bit of a moan, because I do like to moan now and again, and I don't think I've moaned enough in the last few weeks. So let's have a whinge and a whine. And it's about the syndicates. The syndicates that operate. So this is mainly for when you're working on the Courier Exchange. Now, I don't use the Courier Exchange all the time, but I have found it useful for me. Like yesterday, picking up an additional load and helping me out. And what does happen a lot on the Courier Exchange is that the syndicates operate. So you've got one person who has a CX account, bids for work, and then dishes it out to his pals and mates, or his own drivers who work for him. He'll take a cut out of that, and they'll work even cheaper than he's done it. So he can afford to bid cheap, because he's giving it out cheap. So then that affects the good, ordinary drivers who are just trying to make a living on the CX, because they can't compete. And then you've also got the drivers or companies who bid for work on the CX and then sell that job on. Now, that doesn't affect me so much as a driver, but it does affect driver/shippers. So drivers who perhaps have their own customers who look after that customer, but from time to time they're busy and they have to subcontract that work out. So what they'll do is they'll put it on the Courier Exchange, and obviously someone on the Courier Exchange will bid for that job. Say someone like me would bid for it because it suits me, it's going where I want to go. I'll put a bid in, that bid will get accepted, and I'll go and do that job. Now, most of the hotshot type jobs on the Courier Exchange, it's generally expected that you will pick up that goods and deliver it direct. But what happens sometimes is that the driver picks up that good, picks up another good, and picks up another one, co-loads it all, so he'll bid cheaper on all of them, because collectively it all adds up to decent money, and then goes and delivers them. But from the actual shipper's perspective, what happens, and this was mentioned in the chat group yesterday, I'm not going to say names, but a driver come shipper posted a job, and then when he checked the tracking system, the driver he'd collected his goods and then had gone to another business to pick up, and then the cheeky sod went to another business to pick up. So he wasn't delivering those goods direct. And then when he confronted him about it, he was saying, oh, well, the price is a bit too cheap, so I have to co-load. He tried to justify it like that. But if it's a direct job, you shouldn't do it, should you? And if he's going cheaper than anybody else to then multiply his jobs, that means that your normal drivers like me and other guys and girls can't compete because they're bidding so cheap, you're not going to get a look in. And it's surely this should be policed a little bit better by the Courier Exchange. I know they've introduced some items now about the way you log in to your desktop version, and you've got to have a two-step verification. But it doesn't stop me, for example, bidding for a job and not doing it, but simply taking a screenshot of the job and WhatsApping it to someone else and saying, go and do that and I'll give you this much money. And the Courier Exchange probably needs to introduce some more methods to stop this for the benefit of the shippers who are, possibly getting let down and then end up letting their customers down because things aren't getting there on time. And the drivers, the good honest drivers who pay for a CX subscription and would expect, to get their fair share of work off it, but cannot compete with the syndicates and the co-loading So what do you think? Is any of you guys finding it increasingly difficult to win bids on the CX sometimes? I am finding, now, I am not full-time CX, but I am finding, especially in the highly populated areas, the big cities like Birmingham, Manchester, I won't say London because I never go into London, but busy cities where there's lots of work but also lots of drivers, you can't win the bids. The bids are going in so cheap you can't compete. You can't run your vehicle for what they're expecting you to do it for. And that's because there's lots of people bidding super cheap and then co-loading. And I don't know about you guys out there, but I'm finding it ridiculous that they're expecting a big 4-metre van like this to run for £1 a mile, but not even as a backload, as a hotshot direct delivery. And I'm sorry, it doesn't pay to run this van at that kind of money. Maybe as a backload to get me home if I've had decent money to get there in the first place, but not as getting up in your first job of the day and you're getting £1 a mile. It doesn't pay that. I'm sorry. And again, the small vans, Saintsman, who's like a well-known YouTuber, he's saying that he's actually getting less per mile now than he was a couple of years ago. Is this the only industry where we're all taking a pay cut? Because the cost of insurance has gone up. Fuel's expensive. You know, it's not cheap to get a subscription on the Courier Exchange. So what are you guys finding out there? I'm finding it hard to bid for work at what I would consider to be a normal price. Don't get me wrong, sometimes I bid and I've been surprised and got a good price. But on the whole, I could put 20 bids in and maybe get a sniff of one if I'm lucky. Now, thankfully for me, the bulk of my work comes outside of the CX system. So I don't totally rely on it, but I would be worried if I had to totally rely on the CX at the moment. I know when it was conceived, it was set up as a backload site. But let's face it, it's not sold as that anymore, is it? And there are people who work it pretty much full time. Or people who are just setting out in the industry have got no choice but to work full time on the Courier Exchange until they build the connections and things like that so they can get work outside of it. And I think if they're taking big sums of money off us for subscriptions, they should be doing something about the cheaters. It's cheating them out of money anyway. So you'd think they'd be more keen to do it. And again, the people who are posting work, they want to make sure the job's properly done because otherwise they're going to lose their customer. If a customer's paid for a direct delivery to a shipper, he expects a direct delivery, doesn't he? And then if the shipper's been let down by some syndicate on the CX or some crafty guy who's co-loading for fun, their customer's not going to get their delivery at the time they expect it and will probably not use them again. So it's like in everybody's interest to get rid of these syndicates and kick them out of here, because I think they're ruining it. I think they're making it bad for everybody. It looks bad. And anyway, that's my moan. That's what I'm moaning about. And if you agree with me, what do you think can be done to stop it? What do you reckon? What can we do? What can the CX do, if anything? But other than that, have a great weekend, everybody. So I'm just trying to get my mouth around my word there. Thank you for watching. Give us a thumbs up if you are happy with the content. Helps me get the channel out. Consider subscribing, and don't forget, we're still in the middle of our appeal for Neil the Neptune Courier. He's not far off 1,000 subscribers now. It would make his year, his decade, if he can get to 1,000 subscribers. It has been gnawing at him. It's been deep down upsetting him. I know that in the back of his mind, he's suffering, seeing other YouTubers who do in this industry have more subscribers than him, and he's not a bad lad, and his content's quite interesting and useful. So please, I'll put another link in the comments section or description section. Help out our Neil. It's just your little bit for charity. Have a great weekend, everybody.